Live from deep in an underground bunker in East Tennessee, this is America's premier mortgage field services expert, Paul Williams.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of Foreclosurepedia Podcast. Foreclosurepedia Podcast, the presentation of the Foreclosurepedia Radio Network, which airs each Sunday. My name is Paul Williams, editor-in-chief, Foreclosurepedia.org, and today we're speaking with, Luke Tomaszewski. He's the CEO of ProxyPics, an evaluation zone. And Luke, I'd like to introduce you to the Foreclosurepedia Nation, and if you could, bring my audience up to speed just a little bit on your history and how we came to talking about ProxyPics today, sir.
Sure, Paul. Thank you for having me. Definitely looking forward to spreading a little more information on ProxyPics and the technology behind it to your audience. But just a brief history on me. So I entered the real estate industry about 17 years ago now as a real estate appraiser. So I started off as a typical field appraiser in the field doing inspections and valuations. Once the HVCC came into play, shortly after that we opened up an appraisal management company to comply with the new laws, later being replaced by the Dodd-Frank Act. So not only do we have, the local appraisal firm, but then we have the national appraisal management experience. So like I said, about 17 years in the evaluation industry, hold a real estate broker's license. During the REO boom, we briefly had a preservation company. So we've touched, a lot of aspects of the real estate industry. So that's just a very brief history on, me, how I got into the industry and, where we are today right now.
Sure. And I want to talk, so you've created a platform, ProxyPics, and that's ProxyPics.com, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. You created this platform. What is the idea behind the platform? And I understand many people will see PROXY. What does the acronym actually stand for? Because I hear there's a term for it.
Sure. So initially, when I came up with the idea, so just a brief history on how the idea actually generated. So us as appraisers, along with a lot of people in the real estate industry, up-to-date photos of properties are very, very important, especially for lending purposes. So we're constantly driving around as appraisers getting photos, and it was about 4 or 5 years back where I drive across town. I'm located in Chicago, and it'll take, upwards of an hour to get across the city. And I was missing one photo, and the idea just came into my head with, why am I wasting so much time for one photo that I forgot to get while I know somebody's, standing there and that would be willing to take it for a couple of bucks. So that's how the idea initially generated, and then, as the technology, quickly advanced on the cellular devices. GPS became better. The photos, they went from, I think, starting at 2 megapixels all the way down to 6 megapixels now we're seeing. So as technology increased, I saw that we could actually build something out like this on the cell phone is how that initially started. I'm trying to remember. What was the initial question here? My apologies.
ProxyPics. I heard it actually deals with proximity photo.
Yes. So that's how, so the initial name is, it's short for proximity photo. And the more people that I spoke to, especially attorneys, they thought that proxy was more so for, you sending somebody out as a proxy for you. So I said, that works too.
Sure. Yes, sir. I want to drill down a little bit on the software for a moment. So tomorrow morning, I'm an investor. I'm anybody. I want a photo in the United States. Talk to me about the process of how I want to obtain a photo. How do I go about doing that? Is this a complicated matter, or walk me through that process?
Very easy. So, I mean, when we were building the actual application, we wanted to make it as easy as possible for the user to experience it, not only for the person requesting the photo, but also for the person taking the photo. We wanted to make it very simple, and the reason for that is not only when it's simple, we'll use the platform more, but at the same time, it eliminates, the possibilities for errors. So an individual user, they have the option of, downloading the app, either on iOS or Android, simply placing the order through there. All that you do is you put in the subject, location, address. We have an API through Google Maps. Once you put that down, then you just give the details of, how many photos you want and what each photo is for the description. So it could be, front left photo, front right photo, and one rear photo. We're billing at a rate of $5 per image, and if you're the person taking that image, you receive $3.25 for each image that you take. So that's on the mobile side. We recently launched the web ordering application, so the username and password that you're using for the app, you could simply go to ProxyPics.com, and it's the exact same process to place an order. You just do it via PC. For some larger clients, we have a Excel bulk upload option where you could fill out a template in Excel that we have, put in the subject address, the photos that you need, and you could upload, anywhere from 1 to a couple of thousand properties. And then for the large clients, we have a fully documented two-way API where we plug into your system, and it just constantly sends, requests, and then it keeps pinging our system whenever something is completed. We could send back the raw JPEG images, or we can embed it into a PDF. So there's a lot of different ordering options. So if you're, just an individual user, we've got easy options for you. And if you're a large enterprise customer, we cover that also.
Excellent. So I want to drill down on excuse me, the photos and the addresses for a moment. So now I live in rural Tennessee, so an address is an address out here. But when I think of, say, Metro DC, I think of these brownstones, literally feet separate that address. How are you guys ensuring that GPS, that photo is accurate with specificity to the person as they take it?
Of course, that's a great question. So we have two pieces of technology for that, and a lot of the lending institutions that we work with, that's a question that comes up quite often. So when we initially built the app out, we have a technology called geofencing technology. All that simply means is that we're setting up a virtual fence around the subject property of 500 feet around the perimeter. So wherever Google Maps drops the pin on the center of that property, from there we're setting up a 500-foot invisible fence. When you arrive at that property, let's say you're on the wrong block, you're exceeding that 500-foot range, and you try to take a photo of the wrong house, within the app it'll simply tell you that you're too far away, and we just don't let you take a photo within the app. So that's the only way you could do it. The second piece of technology that we are launching in about a week now is through the machine learning or AI process. So a lot of our clients require a address verification photo, which is simply taking a photo of the digits on a mailbox or the front of the house. And what we're actually doing now through machine learning is we're cross-referencing that address to the order address on the actual order that we receive from the client. So we're digitizing the address and cross-referencing. So if you order 123 Main Street from us, and you're in Metro, DC, where there's, 4 different houses that end up in that 500-foot geofence limit, if you take the photo of the house just to the left, which is 125 Main Street, within a split second, we will reject that job back to you, because that one photo gets sent back to our server, and through machine learning, it sees that there's a mismatch between 123 on the order and 125, which is what you took. So the nice thing is, not only does it eliminate the kickback from our client for having the wrong photo, but the user on the street, they're not wasting any time. Within a split second, they're notified that it's the wrong property, and they can make that correction, take the right photo without having to go back, and they get paid shortly after that.
Excellent. And so let's say that, for example, I'm a lending institution. I want to come to you now. I deal a lot with the distressed asset world, the foreclosure world. Let's talk about the actual photo. One of the oldest copyrights that we have in the United States is the photograph itself. So when I take the photo, as the person operating the camera taking that photo, Who has the rights to that photo?
So the rights go to ProxyPics along with the client that is paying for the photo. The photo taker has no rights to the photo that they
Excellent.
took.
Excellent. And one final question, I want to stick on those photos for a moment. Does your software have built in so that if a person, was so inclined, they can't draw it out of their gallery? It has to be a real-time photo with metadata, for want of better words, embedded. Is that a fair statement?
It's a great statement. So once you arrive to a property, you can only take the photo within the app. It's got to be a live photo. We don't allow you to access your gallery or your library on your phone. So let's say if you take the first photo, it's blurry. You could cancel that, retake it within the app. And at the same time, we are embedding the longitude and latitude data in each photo. So we know exactly how far that user was from the actual subject. So all of that is embedded in the photo also.
Excellent. And I know you come from the appraisal world. I want to drill down just a little bit into the distressed asset world. So inspections, I mean, in my world right now, in what they have in the media and the numbers out there, I take them with a grain of salt. The clients that I deal with, we're dealing with enormous numbers. With specificity, let's say to FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, have you guys found any type of conflict of interest is probably the wrong word, but how the law is applied? And I listened to a webinar yourself with a gentleman, he was an attorney, Craig Capilla, I'm probably butchering that last name, I apologize, of the Franklin Law Group. He discussed the information about the uniform standards of professional appraisal practice, but he also got out there a little bit, discussing FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Have you found yet any issues that present for, say, our industry coming to you to utilize your product and building upon that question? Have you had the opportunity to reach out to anybody in the distressed asset community and say, hey, we're here, why don't you try us?
Yes, so I actually see a great opportunity for us to help the distressed asset community. Right now, the typical inspection model, it's just very archaic in my opinion, where the client, HUD, whoever it might be, they reach out to the national inspection company that they're using. The national inspection company dispatches their local inspector, and the local inspector lines it up on their schedule for hopefully that week to whenever it makes sense. In my opinion, it's a lot of wasted time. I mean, when we present demos to some of our clients, one of the slides that we show is that we are 90% faster than the typical inspection company. And on paper, that might be hard to believe, but once we start diving into it, everything that I just mentioned, from where the client orders it, to the national inspection company receiving it, to the inspector lining it up on their schedule, we don't do any of that. All of that is eliminated on our platform. And the reason for it is everybody's calling us the Uber for photos, because what we're doing is crowdsourcing the image from people that are close in proximity to that subject address. So when you place that order within our platform, we don't delay that process at all. Once you press complete and you send that order over to us, any user that's within a 10-mile proximity of that subject address receives a notification that there's a nearby job. Once they accept it, a 6-hour timer turns on, and they have the ability to take that photo. So there is no overlay of us trying to find somebody. It's all automated within the system. And I think that'll drastically help the default industry. I know that typical timelines are running anywhere from 3 to a couple of weeks I've seen in the rural markets. And we recently brought on a great strategic advisor, Dave Stevens. So he was the former president of the Mortgage Bankers Association. He was at Wells Fargo, at FHA. So he just brings a world of knowledge that we haven't been exposed to yet. So yes, we initially built the platform for the valuation industry, but as we keep discovering, additional industries, and we have, Dave's insight, the sky's the limit, simply put. It'll change a lot of industries, and in regards to default, not only will it decrease turn times drastically, but I think the costs will also lower, and with that, just put a lot of Americans, to work for the gig economy. I mean, the gig economy is going to be Intuit said that by 2020, they think 43% of the workforce will comprise of gig economy workers.
Absolutely. And so when we talk about the photo, and you'd sent me over a document, it's called the Exterior Condition and Marketability Report. So I presume it's possible to send in a request to anybody out there, if you will, in a crowdsourcing fashion, not just that you want a photo taken, but you can embed specific questions that a client may want answered. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. So we initially developed the platform just for photos, but then we started getting a lot of questions if they could enter, a questionnaire on top of the photos. So that's been a new build out, and we offer custom questionnaires. We have clients ordering, something very simple where it might be a one-line question saying, is there any visible damage to the subject property? Yes, no. And we dive as deep as, developing we developed the Fannie Mae Form 30, which has a lot more questions. It's a lot more detailed. But at the same time, it's just going to, change that industry where a lot of our clients have been used to waiting, 5 to 7 days, which is the standard in the industry. 24 hours or less will be the turn times that we're offering on these products.
Right, and when you start talking the rural setting, at least in the mortgage field services industry, there's a lot of those jobs that'll go 20, even 40 days. And when you start talking about the timelines, and I'm sure Mr. Stevens can speak to this better than I, but the timelines imposed by the federal government upon, say, a financial institution or Fannie or Freddie, you start violating those times, you start getting fined. And that was just, excuse me, that was something that I wanted to bring up. I was doing a little show prep before we went on air. It's looking like it's an incredible world out there, and the economy is booming, and everybody's happy. I went over to Adam, pulled the data. When we talk about foreclosure increases, Florida is up by 68%, Oregon by 46%, Louisiana by 34%, and Texas and Illinois up by 9%. And when we start actually looking at the affordability, all right, in housing, the ability to buy a house right now, 71% of America in the housing market is not affordable. And when we finally combine that, let's say with the fact that the residential mortgage-backed security loans, money's owed on those 5 years plus, it's off the charts. I mean, and to me, that indicates that there's going to be a next crisis. How bad is it? Is it going to be manageable? Those I can't opine upon. But the ability to get that inspection done immediately and the ability to deliver that information to the client so they can act appropriately, to me, is what is critical. And that's where I really, at least from where I'm sitting in the distressed asset community, that's where I think really ProxyPics can become enormous. To that point, do you guys have what in coding we would call an API? So if I'm a client, I'm Bank ABC, do you have the ability to key they in to your platform with an API? Can you develop that? Does it exist? Is there a hook for that?
So we had that developed from day one when we launched the application. It's a simple two-way API where the banks or the lending institution system simply hooks into ours. They place the order, and then they would ping our system every few minutes to see if it comes back with a completed status. Once it does, they're able to pull that request back. And it could be as simple as, just pulling the raw JPEG images, or we could white label a PDF for them with images and a questionnaire if that was an option that they chose. So that's a fully documented API that we have. So any clients that do want to integrate directly into our system, we provide that document to them to start that process very easily.
Excellent. And one final thing, and we're going to keep it brief today, and I really do appreciate your time. Look, I mean, in your first year of starting up, I mean, this is incredible. I mean, you start talking about the intellectual power that you brought on with Mr. Stevens, the access to that market, what you guys have designed, where you're at today. I started looking at your numbers. You started off with a couple of thousand people. The last stat I saw was, I think you're over, correct me if I'm wrong, over 16,000 now people readily available geographically throughout the continental United States. Is that correct?
Very close. We're at about 17,500 as of today, and the numbers increased by anywhere from 50 to 150 users per day. And I think that's just going to continue to increase. I mean, as we do the web advertising or some of the conferences that we go to, not only do the, potential clients love what they're hearing with, the time and cost savings, but the users on the street. I mean, when we explain that you'll get paid this for doing that, it takes a minute for them to sink in. So we've done, some just public events just to drive, more users to download the app and, become photographers for us. We've had instances where people don't believe us because it sounds too good to be true, too easy. We tell them, when you're walking to get a coffee, if there's a house on the corner that somebody needs a photo of, take it, and that coffee's basically on us. And they don't always believe us. We have to start explaining, the need, the industry that we're, serving, to why we're doing this. And then they start to believe us, actually.
Absolutely. And I also understand you're actually going international. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct. Yep, we've launched a ProxyPics Australia, so we're not live there yet. We have a small team out there that's getting ready to launch. And I actually spent, some time in Australia about 4 years ago. I spent a day with an Australian appraisal company, so we made, some good contacts there, and it seems like Australia is just going to be a great fit for ProxyPics. I don't want to say that they're ahead of the States when it comes to technology, but when it came to the valuation industry, they were quite a bit ahead of us. So that's why, we're really excited to launch there as our first international market. We have, a lot of interest from the UK. So, the sky's the limit for, what we could potentially do and offer to not only the U.S., but to other countries.
Well, excellent. Luke, I want to thank you once again for taking time to speak with the Foreclosurepedia Nation today. If anybody who hears us today wants to go and apply, get the app, try to work with you, what do they have to do?
Simply just go to the App Store. If you have an Android or iOS device, just type in ProxyPics within the search. It's a very easy registration process. You'll have the app on your phone, so you'll have the ability to place orders, and we'll also notify you whenever you're by a job, so you can simply accept that and take it. At the same time, go to the website, which is ProxyPics.com. You could read a little bit on some FAQs that we might have. You have some general questions. We might have answered those. And we also have the web login. So if you're placing orders, it's a little bit easier on the PC. So that is already available and ready to go for you to just start testing out the platform. And I think it'll just really improve your business and what you're trying to do. That's what we're here to do. Just make everything easier and more cost effective.
And if I'm an enterprise level client and I'm the type of firm or a financial institution that wants to do this large scale, where should I go or reach out to get more information and potentially apply?
At that point, just send us an email to hello@proxypics.com. For the enterprise users, everything is very customizable. You're not paying the $5 per image. We have customized pricing based on monthly volumes. If we're tying in a questionnaire, things like that. So just send us an email at hello@proxypics.com, and we'll get you started on the platform.
Excellent. Luke, once again, I want to thank you for speaking with us today, and we will be back right after this from a word from our sponsors.